that light shines into the darkness and illuminates the room, is the same way your good works are supposed to illuminate into someone's life, and they're like, hey, what is he doing different? Like, that's working out for him, or man, that guy has a whole different life, and it's supposed to point them out of the darkness. Another thing I'm going to argue that it says is part of your light is to be a proclamation of Christ and Him crucified and the gospel, and your stance is supposed to be part of your light, right? So if someone's in an office setting and they're like, yeah, Jesus is just like any other God, part of you being light is to stand up and say, hey, actually, let me tell you about Jesus. Now, why do I say that? Can I prove that from the text? Because, again, what I think is nothing. Is it from the text? That's the only thing that matters. If I can't prove it through here, throw it away. Okay? The reason I think that is because I think he's making a bridge connection, right, between these two concepts. And what he's doing is he's using salt, and all this is one thought, right? So in the same way, and I'll get into salt, don't worry about that, I'll get into salt. He says, persecute you and utter all types of evil against you falsely on what? On my account. On my account. So, I think, why would this person be getting persecuted? Because he's light. Because he's light, and people hate the light, right? So, if you want to know if you're being light, are you being persecuted? And if you want to know why you're being persecuted, it's because you're being light. So, rejoice and be glad, for great is your reward in heaven, right? Next thing, I'm going to go to salt here. Now, I think, like I said, this is a bridge. I think what Jesus is doing is he's taking two concepts that aren't so much like each other, and he's making a metaphor in the middle, which is just, it's amazing the way he does it when I start to break it down. Hopefully you think it's amazing. I think it's amazing. I think Jesus, after I've studied, Paul, and I've studied a bunch of other guys, and like Peter, whatever, nobody speaks like Jesus does. Nobody can make these connections like Jesus does. He is clearly a brilliant man. I mean, and we say that, of course, he's God, but you can't lift him up high enough. The dude was legitly smart. I think, what is the problem here, right? There's a big warning. Where are these boards coming from? All right. So Jesus warns us. There's a warning here. Now, but if salt has lost its taste, so lost its taste, how shall its saltiness be restored? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled by men. Without getting too much into what that means, right? Can we all agree in this room that we don't want that to be a description of us, right? I mean, what does it mean? I don't know, but I just don't want that to be applied to me, right? So let's figure out, how does this salt, what is this salt, and how does this lose its taste? Salt, sodium chloride, right? Does everybody see this? Who knows what that is? Sodium chloride, right? What is it though? It's the chemical properties of salt, right?
Chemical compound.
In the same way that these are the chemical properties of salt, I'm saying this man's character, this Christian character, is also the chemical properties of salt. Now, if I were to take some of those chemicals and remove them and put them with other chemicals, I might have a good thing. I might have sugar, right? Sugar's great, but it's not salt. It's lost its taste. I might have flour. Flour's a good thing. We need flour, but it's not salt. It's lost its taste. It's good for nothing to me if I need salt. In the same way that you can replace these maybe with charity, and instead of him being a peacemaker, maybe he's, I don't know, a Bible memorizer, and you have a good thing, but you don't have what the Bible calls salt. So I think that's the first way that saltiness is lost. So that's the first definition of salt, and it's also the first way that its taste can be lost. The second one is down here. So what does salt do? How does it work? I'm going to say it works the same way as light does. When you have light, what does it do? It shines and it illuminates into the darkness and it pushes against the darkness. And light doesn't stand by itself, right? Light spreads out and is seen. In the same way, if you have salt and you put it into batter, what does it do? The taste illuminates out into the batter, right? So in the same way that your salt, the flavor of the salt, the taste of the salt, the saltiness pushes out against the batter, is the same way the light shines against the darkness. So I think that's the second definition of salt here. And there's a way that salt can be, there's a way that the taste can be lost in that respects too. So let's say we got our salt, right? So this is my salt granule, right? And what is it doing? It's shining light. It's shining light. Let me get a better pen here. It's shining light, and this light is its taste, its flavor, whatever it's doing, it's impacting what's around it, okay? I think that this breaks into two contexts. The first and immediate context is your life. The second is going to be your culture. Now just bear with me here. Again, if what I'm saying isn't in the text, throw it out. What are some things in your life? You got your job, right?
Friends.
Friends. Thank you. Just throw them out.
Money. I guess that.
Sure. Money, finances.
Family.
Fam. Good. What else?
Church.
Church, right. We're going to throw church here at the bottom. Put this up here. And we just fill in whatever. You guys get the point,
School.
right? School. Good. You guys get the point? So what are some things in culture? You've got business. Let's say military.
Music.
Music.
Media in
Fashion.
general.
What is that?
Just media in general.
Media. Great.
Fashion.
Fashion.
Food.
Food.
Guns.
Yeah.
Okay. And then down here at the bottom we'll have church. You guys get the point, right? Okay. Now one way, if this is salt, if it's got its taste and its flavor is illuminating like light and affecting the dough around it, one way that salt can lose its taste is if when I put it into the batter, it just clumps together at the bottom. It never affects the rest of the dough, right? And I think that's a lot of times what we see. We see this light. It only shines in the churches. It doesn't shine in your family. It doesn't shine at your work. It doesn't shine with your friends. It doesn't shine in any place in culture except for the church. If I had salt like that, I would get rid of that salt because it's worthless, right? What God calls us to do is to be light at our job, with our friends, with our family, right? These are little light beams, little salt flavor in the batter when it's mixed up, all throughout our life. And if we do that, God has put us in a specific place, for example, most of you, the military, so you can be light in this part of your culture and thus preserve your culture, or the business world, or media, or music, to redeem all these things in your culture and to be light in your culture, or the food industry, or the fashion industry, wherever it is. So I think that, judging from the text, is what the Bible means when it says you're to be salt and light.